Clint.
Colette?
Oh, your microphone sounds so good. I'm sorry. I can't.
No.
It's amazing.
Yeah, the last episode was effectively an incident, right? Like, yeah.
I'm just so happy. I'm so happy we figured it out.
Me
Just
too. Me
your
too. It's so
voice sounds like
simple.
butter, which is how I know your voice to sound
Oh.
normally. And so I'm just so glad that we fixed that.
Honestly, yeah, I do listen to our episodes like in the car. I just want to like hear us, we'll fast forward through some bits. And I had turned on this last one. I'm like, this is not like what happened? Like,
I
did I
know,
do
and you
this one from the
slapped me,
bottom of
and
a
I was like,
well?
I swear, Clint, I didn't. If anything, I tried to improve it with like the little production tooling that I have access to, but
No,
we figured it out.
ultimately. Yeah.
The era of people and not understanding how great Clint's voice is over.
Yes.
You're gonna get
Finally.
lots of fan mail now from people.
I'm
who love
waiting
your
for it.
voice.
Yeah. Send me your fan mail. I'd love to hear from it. No, it was so simple too. Like because the frustrating thing was, so after that, I'm like, okay, maybe I need a new mic. I like went through all these steps of like, okay, just go record with like the most basic recording software. Beautiful, And then I'm like, okay, maybe I should try Riverside. I like started my own account,
Yeah.
pop up Riverside. It picks this microphone and I record and I play back and I export. I'm like, maybe it's in the. I was
And
just
you're
like
like,
going
that's
through all these
beautiful. And
things.
it's like test and prod or live a lie, Clint Byron.
Yeah,
You were not really testing and
I was
prod.
testing and staging. Exactly, because something I think in Riverside I learned when I joined just now, because I was like, I've tested everything. Can we do a test recording? And then you're like, okay, but first, can you make sure it's actually using your microphone because you sound bad? And I'm like, and then it wasn't. It had picked my webcam,
Listeners,
which is right here.
it was selecting the wrong microphone the whole time.
Yes, the whole time. It was coming from inside the house the whole time. And lo and behold. And I'm actually recovering from a cold too, so I get a little extra gravity today.
If only we had a run book for such a thing, Clint.
Let's write that one down. If a guest sounds like crap,
tell them to check their mic source before you start recording.
I like it. Ship it. Yeah. Well, I guess we got to sign up for Confluence now.
Yeah.
Because that's where we going to store
it. What alert are we going to use to monitor?
This is qualitative, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Did I just skip us along? I skipped us too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so much more has been going on in our lives.
Am I legally allowed to talk about anything that's going on in my life right now?
I don't know. Are you?
I don't know.
How's you're moving?
I'm moving. Yeah. I rented the U-Haul. We're gonna do a big, large U-Haul truck. I'm gonna just fangirl for a second. We have a Volvo XC40 Recharge, which is by far my favorite car that I have ever owned in my life.
Nice.
But it's also a fully electric car. We have a pickup truck, a Ford Maverick hybrid, which is also a great car. No shade to the Mavericks. The Mavericks great. It gets like 600 miles or something to a tank of gas.
Nice.
Great car. And we're like, how are we going to get these and our children and our dog? And I finally was just like, you know what? Like the kids probably will have to stop a lot. The dog will probably have to, like, we know we're going to have to stop a lot, but like, I don't want to also combine the stress of like, where's the next charger? When do we have to charge the car next? What's going? I like didn't want to have to. I don't want to deal with that. If we were like in Canada, it would be different because they have like an actually robust charging network. But like
shocking,
the United
Canada's
States
ahead
not.
of us. What?
And so we just decided to get a U-Haul, like a 15-foot U-Haul truck, and we'll tow the electric. And then we'll have extra storage in the U-Haul truck to put boxes and shit in. So
yeah. That's fun. I like driving a big truck once in a while.
I've never done it. I might make my husband do it. And I'll just drive the kids in the pickup.
The charger anxiety thing is tough though. Like really I have an EV as well. And I live in like the land of EVs in Southern California. So we have a lot of chargers, but like the moment you step even out of LA County, it like starts getting like,
Yeah.
ooh, the next one is 36 miles away. Like,
And the
can I
amount of
make
times
it?
we've encountered, even just going within the Northeast, like we go to New Hampshire quite frequently, and the amount of times we've encountered where like a small amount of chargers are fully, but like people are
Oh yeah,
charging
yeah,
that. Like
yeah.
it's just like it's really hard to rely, even if you can stop, like you know that there is something. If there's only like four or three or two, then it's like you could be fucked for an hour if there's people waiting. So
Especially like they can have a slower charging model too,
yeah.
right? Like this is so.
Well, you can, like, filter on that now. There's some really good
Oh,
apps that allow you to, like, filter out, like, slow char like, yeah. So, I do think, like, there is support, and if we didn't also have a four-year-old and a two-year-old and a dog, I think I would just be like, "Yeah, cool, let's just, go or whatever, and we'll charge, and it'll be fine." But the fact that we have all of those other things combined, and I'm just
yeah,
like, "I don't wanna deal with that." I wanna,
yeah.
like, take
No,
one complication out of my road trip.
totally.
Um, so yeah, so we're moving and we haven't sold our house yet, and that's really stressful. And I have to get rid of my last four chickens, and I'm really sad about it.
No,
I know. So I'm gonna take them to nice homes this week that won't
and you
end up
can't
using them for meat.
like nobody in Ann Arbor wants them, or is that's like state line transport complication?
I could take them, but I just don't know if it's worth the stress. I feel like that'd
Yeah,
be really
poor
stressful, and,
poor
like,
little chickens.
there's plenty of people here who will love them and care for them and have them lead great lives for, you know, so, yeah.
Side note: I just had to say that Volvo. When I went shopping, I very much considered the same car. Not quite big enough for my family of five, so we passed
Yeah.
on it. But one of the reasons I really wanted to buy a Volvo is because they use Zool
Yeah, I
as
know
their
for their
software
CI
CI
yeah,
tool, and I
yeah,
thought,
it's so
just
cool.
to like
Yeah.
say I had a part in a car,
Yeah.
like
Well, they have the EX90 now, which is their 5
yes,
you can do
that
a
is
five-seater, like, you could, because 'cause we've been thinking about getting an EX90 after this car, but our lease is on this
it's
car
kind
isn't
of
up for
ugly
another
though.
I don't
Okay,
think it is. I don't know. I
yeah.
mean, I don't
Not a fan.
I'm yeah, it's
They
not
could
I
do
mean,
better.
yes, they could. I think
Yeah,
the XC40 is an attractive car.
it's a beautiful car. Yeah, yeah. Crazy fun stuff.
So,
Well,
yeah, so the next time we record, I'll be in Michigan. Actually, the next time we chat related to this episode, which is a new thing. I should talk about it in the intro as well, because we're gonna mention it at the end. But we're gonna do a really exciting new thing, which is Clint and I were like, how can we help our friends at the Resilience and Software Foundation? And really, I was like, "How can I help me at the Resilience and Software
yeah,
Foundation?
yeah.
Help
Since you
help
happen to
me
be,
plan all of the events that are going on, and then also do this podcast." And it turns out there's this really awesome intersection, right? So we're going to do a thing where we collaborate with the Resilience Software Foundation. We're going to do like an after the episode live event through RASF. And Andrew Hatch, who is our guest today, which we're really excited about, is going to help us do the first one. So you can join us for a discussion that will kind of center around this episode, but kind of we're conceiving of these as sort of like a maybe lean coffee style or just like AMA kind of let's get together and discuss topics related to this episode. So we're going to do this event on June 23rd at 3 p.m. Eastern. You can find out more from a link in our show notes or by going to resilienceandsoftware.org. So we'll post it as an event there. And yeah, I'm super excited.
me too.
Yay. All right. I'm going to introduce our guest. Sound good? All right.
Yeah,
Uh, our guest today is Andrew Hatch. We're going to talk about Runbooks. I'm so excited. Andrew's career journey to date has encompassed roles in software engineering, consulting, and operations in companies across Australia, India, and the United States. In 2020, he moved to the San Francisco Bay Area to join LinkedIn as an SRE manager, and as of this year, has transitioned to a new role at Cisco Thousand Eyes. Before relocating, Andrew spent 7 years at Seek Australia, where he led efforts to migrate to AWS and strengthen platform engineering and incident management practices. Since 2013, he's primarily focused on SRE management, developing expertise in complex systems, operational resilience, and incident driven learning to help organizations build more reliable infrastructure and effective engineering practices. Outside of work, he has a longstanding passion for surfing, which keeps him sane in this industry. He grew
Necessary.
up, yes, very necessary. He grew up on the Mornington Peninsula region in Victoria, Australia, and has lived near the ocean his entire life. He's now adapting to conditions, crowds, and kelp in the water at Santa Cruz in Northern California, one of my favorite places in the world. Please welcome Andrew. Hello, welcome to the podcast, Andrew.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We are so excited to have Andrew with us. And this was another one of those questions that came in off the wire. And when I saw it, I talked with Clint and I said, I think this is a really good question. And Clint said, we should have Andrew on.
We want the spicy takes.
Yeah. So you were targeted based on this question. Should I read it for us all? Should I read how we're gonna kick this off? Just read it. Just do it. Okay.
Let's do it.
Can we talk about Runbooks on an upcoming episode? Someone on my team is laser focused on good runbooks as being the solution during incidents. I think this isn't a great assumption that good documentation necessarily helps in the moment when dealing with unexpected behavior in the system, and could even lead us astray to do something unsafe during an incident that's normally safe. This person also argues that good runbooks have qualities like one-stop shop, whereas I feel that documenting things in every runbook leads to sprawl/decay. Thank you. No, thank you, listener, who wrote us this great question about runbooks.
I so feel this question as like I've that dissonance of like run books are good, and then the experience of like, wow, we have so many run books. I can't remember where they all are. There's like so many failure modes with run books. I was so happy to see this question come in.
Yeah.
Andrew, I'm going to start. Have you ever? There's two different sides to this coin of question. Have you ever used a great run book, like during an incident?
Yeah, I would say I have at times, especially when I joined a company or like early on-call rotations, and I just had no clue. And sometimes you're using an incident almost to learn what's happening. So I found that some great run books would easily go, oh no, here's the set of commands that you run, or here's how you get more information. If they were guiding me to the answer, they could be pretty good, informative. But I guess as you start getting more experience, you dig more into things, then that value can diminish over time for a number of reasons. So I'll say yes, but not always.
Have you ever, the other side to this is, have you ever had a run book lead you astray?
Yes.
So when?
Naughty run book.
I mean, many times, I would say, over the years. I mean, I've been either on call or managing on call teams for the better part of 15 years. So, yeah, they can definitely lead you astray. And you could definitely, end up, banging your head against a wall for hours before it's like, oh, wait, this was totally in the wrong spot, or this run book was linked to the wrong alert, et cetera, et cetera. So they can be really hit and miss at times.
Did you find, I'm curious, like, were both of those things, the good run book and then the run book that led you astray, at the same company?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
It depends. I mean, because like if a good run book, I mean, one, it relies on a couple of things. So it definitely needs, the person who's writing it clearly needs to understand the system well. They are more effective when the system or the problem that you're trying to solve isn't overly complex with a lot of variables. Like if it's relatively straightforward, that can be a good run book. If you have a highly complex issue, their value diminishes almost as the complexity of something grows, because it's like saying a great run book for a highly complex system would cover absolutely every single possible interaction. No one can do that, and especially not when you're working at companies who are literally global, who do requests per second in the millions. It doesn't really work that well. So, yeah.
I'm I'm curious, like, so I'm gonna make a confession now, which is that I was once a manager who thought, if we write some run books, people, we'll get our shit together.
Get on it. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really was. I was one of those, and I don't think. I mean, so I do think that what I've seen run books be useful for is more of a sociological phenomena, which was a reluctance for new joiners to join the incident rotation, right? Because it seemed so hard. They felt like they had to know all of the intricacies of the system in order to be able to troubleshoot it. And it's like, no, like the vast majority of things that happen are pretty straightforward. And like, can we provide you with some set of tools that helps you feel more confident in troubleshooting for a little while, almost like training wheels for on call, right? And I actually I don't know that I disagree with that as a use case for run books right now. Still, I think that's actually a pretty good use case for run books, even
Yeah, I think so too.
where they fall down.
I think I agree with you. What I see them as is an accidental expression of what's probably normal with the system. Like we tend to write them problem focused, right? Like oh, we had this problem, and if you see that go up, then make it go down with this, right? It's problem centered. But like I've noticed that new joiners, like people who like just started, maybe they just took the pager, the benefit they really get out is that somebody who knows the system points out that it should be around here, right? And because sometimes maybe it went down, right? But the alert you're getting is like users are mad, and you're like, well, to make it go up, I do this. So maybe if I go to that, like it's like it gives you some normalcy. And one of the tactics I've been taking lately is instead of having people invest in the run book, investing in group ops reviews where like, let's go look at the system while nobody's mad. And like
little
take
less
some
pressure, right?
and like take some screenshots and go like it should kind of look like it looks like this. The last time we looked at it, it kind of worked like this. And notice how when this one goes up, this one goes down. If that's not true, call a senior engineer. I don't know. Like that's one thing I've seen is that I think we were accidentally making statements of normalcy while being problem focused with run books. But where they go off the rails is 3 years later. That's not what normal looks like anymore.
No, it does not. It's and I mean the cynical part of me would say too that throughout my career, often it's either been managing an SRE team or it's been trying to transfer, I guess, responsibility into the hands of those best to solve it, right? Which is often a software engineering team or a product development team. And folks in those teams will often say, where are all the run books? I need a run book because I need to know what's happening. And we're like, well, we could document this here and that might help you. But then nothing's really going to help you more than when you're actually solving the incident, when you are pairing with an SRE, when you actually have your engineers sit alongside them. One approach that I took once, which was relatively successful, was to almost have what you would call like a self-documenting run book. And that would be where if you get an alert, and I'd say it's a serious one. I mean, if it's something simple that, I don't know, maybe a couple of things needed to be restarted because of a bad deployment, whatever. But if it was like a high enough severity, it was wake you up at 2 a.m. severity, we would actually attach notes to the alert. And so if that alert went off again, the next engineer that came on would be able to get, here's all the steps that previous engineers did to solve the problem. Or if the previous step solved the problem, it'd be like an upvote. It'd be like, I followed what person A said and it worked. And so it's a difficult discipline. to sort of get in teams. But if you do have a strong discipline where you are like reviewing these things on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, then you can just ask, hey, what did you do there? How did you solve that? Could you link that to the notes? I found that actually worked pretty well, especially if ever I joined a company and I was on call for the first time, and often being a manager, I'm not too technically minded compared to the engineers. I found those self-documenting steps incredibly easy to follow. It's like, oh, here's a snapshot of a graph at this time, or here's a snapshot of the logs, or here's a query I ran and it found this. I'm like, that's actually really useful because it's actually tied to the alert. So
Yeah, that sounds a lot like documenting abnormal, right? Like giving people like some clues. Like, especially I think even when you're experienced, like if a system is big enough, like you're kind of like looking around it, you're like, by the time you come back around to what you knew was normal over there, like over here has changed. And so if somebody else saw abnormal and said, it really wasn't in a note, like that actually was fine. Or we should adjust this monitor, maybe, like it's happened a couple of times. Now it's like you're gaining that group confidence to go, yeah, actually this is the new normal. Like, and it's okay to relax this monitor or delete it. I really like deleting alerts. But like if you don't have a shared group understanding of that, which can be very, very difficult to just get in retros at big events where something really bad happened, then how are you going to know that like you can actually change the version of this?
I find it really interesting because I feel like also what you both are saying is like, actually a system where Runbooks would work really well would be a system where nobody was doing anything to improve the system. Like where it was just like the
Very
same,
much.
where it was like press the button on lost, like, every right. So like a system, if we can imagine a system where Runbooks would be the perfect answer to something, it would be a system that you never tried to improve, that you never had after incident action items that, went through or like.
But you don't have
anything, right?
agency to improve it.
Yeah.
I think that's really common with SRE teams that are operating in what I call more of an operator mode, not in an engineering mode. I don't know if you've seen this, Andrew, too, where you have people who could improve the system, but because of either cultural or administrative reasons, like they don't because it's not worth the trouble or it's prohibited.
Oh yeah, there's definitely places I've seen this happen where you have an SRE team and they're almost like a operation alert response team, and they get very little time to do the kind of engineering work that would improve the system, that would actually help it, respond better, become more resilient. That is definitely a challenge. I mean, especially in management roles too, because you've got people on call. If they've had a bad on call, often there's follow-ups that can bleed into the next week, and so that impacts delivery schedules. People get burnt out. People go on leave. It can be a very difficult cycle to carve out the time to actually do engineering work, often requiring at times on a manager's side to produce really good detailed information to say, here's actually the amount of unplanned work that all this is causing us, and here's this tiny little bit of planned work that we've actually got to do anything, but by the time we get to this, we just don't have the context. We're context switching again. So yeah, it's a challenge for sure.
Yeah, I recently saw an incident where a team had a very small, very like reasonable action item. Like I'm not really big on those immediately one day after the incident retro action items, but this one was pretty clear. Like, oh wow, it would be useful to have a point of control like right here in our pipeline that we didn't have. And I mean, I'll just say it's been months, right? And that team is so oversubscribed. Like it's tough. Like I'm empathetic to them. You check in on that, and then they're sort of like, oh yeah, we're gonna get to that. It's just the context now has so slipped away, and it hasn't happened again. So, like, certainly other things have happened. No amount of like runbooks or readiness is going to have that effect for them. We actually need to surface the fact that we know what to do, and we don't have the bandwidth or prioritization agency, right? Because, like you said, Colette, you have the time. It's whether or not you actually can
The
take
time
it.
exists. It's just how you spend it.
It's like other things
Yeah.
arrive and
That's right.
they get the priority.
And we have that little run book that sort of just compensates for that. Just
Yeah.
keeps us ticking over.
Just
Yeah, it's
press the
not
red
great.
button again.
Yeah,
Just
press
keep
the red
pressing
button
it.
again. That's right. Yes.
One interesting thing
I,
about Runbooks and new people too, which I'd love to get your take on there, Andrew, was you're saying like it's useful when you're new. And I've been in situations where I joined and like I am a staff engineer, like I can kind of figure things out quickly, but I don't know anything about this system. I'm in my first 6 months. And the Runbooks like gave me an idea not just about the system, but like the assumptions that everyone around me was operating in. Like, oh, they assume this about databases. I don't have that assumption. I had the opposite actually in my head. So now I know how to talk to people. So there's like a socio version of this runbook too, which is like just knowing what red buttons they've been pushing and what they think they do is helpful in having conversations about how we can evolve. I don't know if you've seen a similar effect where there's just a social, like we wrote things down, so now you know what we think.
Not so much, I would say, but maybe I did, but wasn't aware at the time. I did like your early example of how it's sort of like it's in this zone, right, that it can help. I would say that sometimes some of the best run books are almost unintentional, and that is so one of my tactics if joining a new company is if I get an alert, I start searching for these keywords on something like Slack, and then I find right, and it's like, oh, okay, and that sort of then can lead me to tie more threads together. I remember once, yeah, people were discussing, oh, should we keep using Slack? We should use something else. And my answer to that always was, you have years of archival knowledge of what people have actually done, right, up to the minute. This has so much value to engineers, to on-call people. You track everything there. Like, that is incredibly useful. Wouldn't it be amazing if maybe it already exists, if there's some AI agent now that you can just go, find me all the incidents where blah happened, and I don't have to use a search bar search function anymore. So there you go, Slack. If you haven't thought of it, that'd be a great idea too. But
well,
I'm
I
sure
also
they're
think
doing
that's like a
AI.
funny thing, right? It's
I'm
like
sure they are.
it's like if you so like something happens, let's say you get paged, there's an alert, and you have, you know, 4 minutes of headroom to go do your research on what it is you should do, right? Like to figure out, do you go to Wikipedia? Do you go to your Atlassian instance? Or do you go to Slack and with some good search terms from your alert that you received? Choose your warrior, choose your weapon.
Oh, I'd probably go to where people have documented these things in real time as it happened. So I'd probably go to
You
Slack.
would trust Slack over like searching Confluence or
Same.
something for a runbook.
Yeah, I would.
I actually
Ooh.
look to Confluence to find out what's wrong. Like what is the wrong information that led
What's
us to
the
this
wrong
point?
thing to do? Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
my experience with runbook libraries has been similar to that. If I haven't personally like or with my team been able to like review them sometime in the last year, like I feel like they're actually far less likely to be accurate than Slack, because Slack is like where people are like, I tried the runbook and it didn't
Yeah.
like it, nothing works. Like, and then someone's responding like, oh no, it's this, like try this. And then the incident just ends and the thread ends and you're like, okay, that might work. Like that's a, I like, I don't know what term you use there. It's like an accidental run book, right? Like,
Yeah.
like somebody, I guess an incidental run book, right? Where it's like somebody went, I'm desperate. I'm going to ask in the channel, and they got a response, and it, you know, it's just as likely to be right as the run book, I think.
If we want to borrow from Resilience Engine, we call it unintended run books, right? Not unintended consequences.
I like that one,
But yeah, I mean, it depends though, right? Because you can, I mean, if you have a huge amount of discipline in keeping, okay, something like a Confluence, right? Or any sort of, you know, documentation portal, sure. if your teams and your engineers are incredibly diligent, and after every alert, you go back and review it and you make incremental updates to that,
Have you
sure,
ever
that could.
worked with a team that does that though?
No, they exist in
And is
some
it because
mythical
they don't
world,
have
but
discipline, or is it just because they have better things to do? And
it's,
I mean, that's
mm,
that's another question, right? It's like,
no, it's a genuine question. I think that, look, I mean, it depends on how serious it is. If it's a really serious incident and like, it's got everyone's attention and people are really focused on the retrospective of the incident, sure, there'll be some action. Did the run book reflect the reality? If not, update it, track it, log it, get it done. So I think that in some cases, yes, but I think in the vast majority, especially if you're really busy, doing that often can fall way behind on your list of priority of things to do. It just does. I mean, we're all really busy. Um, and sometimes, but I don't know, some engineers do almost are very diligent. I've worked with a few, I wouldn't say in the majority, but some folks I've worked with over the years, incredibly diligent on this stuff. It's almost like a thing for them. They can't not do it. And I appreciate them highly for doing it. But I do totally respect that some people are like, I got it done. I've solved this. I've updated when it updated. Now I need to go get other things done because I've got other people pinging me or I've got another alert going. And then, before long, then I'm probably bugging them to do some other piece of work. And then it just, it ends. So,
It kind of goes back to the
yeah.
finite universe model, right? Like,
Mm.
what there for a time, I've definitely worked for teams that for a time are that diligent, and like you say, the big incident brings maybe enough attention and maybe even extra resources or more space. You can like discard some work because people realize, oh wow, this is serious. We need to give them some space. The run books get a review. They that discipline doesn't go away when the time goes away, but it gets deprioritized, and that burns people out, I think, because they'll emotionally know, like, oh, the run books are dying over there. They're drifting off from reality, and I'm eventually going to pay for that, and I don't
mm,
have the ability to go back into that. And so I think that's like something I've always wished for, is a way to like raise my hand and be like, yeah, it's peaceful now. So you're, loading me up with non uh, like safety maintenance work, but like I still need to do the safety maintenance work.
Yeah, yeah. You're right, and it does lead to burnout. And nothing kills you more than someone having the same issue that you had, like weeks or months later, and they are literally come to you saying, "None of this worked. You had the same incident. Did you do things differently?" Like, "Oh, yeah, I kind of did. Well, you didn't update it," and that can be it's tough, right? I mean, you don't want to be in that position, and you feel bad. I think that a lot of it just comes back to being able to make, like, as a manager, right, work has to be visible. Like your unplanned efforts, your proactive versus reactive. Like if you can't make that visible, if you can't talk to that and say, look, we can't get this thing done, or we need to push this work out, and if you need to have a good reason why. If you can do that well, I'm not saying it's always going to work in your favor, but being that informed can at least give you greater power to influence conversations around that. The worst you can do is just throw up your hands and just say, "Oh, we're all tired and burnt out." I mean, sure. I mean, you can trigger an emotional response from other people to go, "Yeah, I feel bad for you. Is there anything I can do?" And if you're like, "Yeah, can you give me 2 weeks to not do anything?" We can't do that. So, yeah, I do feel that's a challenge still.
whose dog?
That's my dog.
It's not my dog.
Oh,
I think the delivery UPS is at the door, I think.
oh yeah, that happens to me all the time.
Yeah. No amount of soundproofing can prevent
Can
Sunny's bark from penetrating these walls. She'll be done
yay,
in a few minutes, but
that's
I
fine.
think like what you part of work needing to be visible, I think it's a common failure pattern in SRE teams for sure. Is
Yeah.
like we like we know we need to have tickets. We know we need to do stuff that helps everyone understand our capacity problems. But it always feels different than the way the feature teams are working. It always feels like, are we doing too much of this? Are we doing too little of this? Like I never really feel dialed in a reliability focused team about like whether I'm doing Kanban or Scrumban or like one of the variants. It just, I don't know, that making it visible is really hard to do.
But I also, it's like, I don't know. There's also this thing of like, and I think this also is what the question asker was getting at too, which is like, is updating your run book Sisyphean in the face of all of the change that happens around you? Like, it will be useless in another week. And is that a good enough excuse to say, no, I'm not going to do that? Or is it like, and is also that what is happening with people who aren't making their work as visible because they're like, well, is it going to matter in a week or two? Anyways, like the system will be totally different. We're all sliding down the same hill slowly in an avalanche, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're working in a position or in a company where the rate of change is that high, where things go stale within a week, I mean, that's tough. A round book to me just seems like a waste of time. And that ideally, if you can attach notes to how you resolve something, then you would potentially just build up that archive of knowledge that way, rather than actually going, no, I'm going to go write a document and keep going back to writing that document. It's not really going to work. I think it comes down to, but if you don't have a lot of change, right? If things are highly predictable, it's not a very complex system that you're working in. Well, sure, you could probably write it and it might still be useful maybe months later, because change is so controlled. But if you're in a highly dynamic, constantly changing environment, yeah, I get what the person who asked the question is saying there. They would be next to useless.
And if you're an SRE team, probably you're in the more dynamic bit, I'm guessing.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because you've got everyone depending on you then.
Right.
Exactly. I've worked at some companies where, people who might be responsible for like, entire database layer. I mean, I feel bad for those folks, because like the moment that sneezes, everyone catches a cold. It's like it has so much influence.
Yeah.
It just propagates back through the system, and it's like you feel bad for them, but that is generally the nature of what we do. And so it does come down to, work management processes and everything else. Following the prescriptive book of, say, something like Agile, in my experience, doesn't really work for SRE teams. I'm not saying aspects of Agile don't work, because some of them do. And it's the same in anything. You have to adapt the process to how your team works, the demands placed on your team, what your company values, what your company needs, and how do you then visualize reflect back up what your team is doing, ideally to get more time to pay down the unplanned work. And I often see that as one of the biggest goals for any manager of an SRE team, is how do you do that? Now, you could say we could completely doing run books and make them absolutely perfect, which would, in theory, make our ability to resolve issues faster because they're so well written. Well,
does it though?
Not in practice, I've found. Because if things are too dynamic and changing, they don't. They're
not
their
as
value.
useful. Yeah.
No, and they could actually increase the time.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I don't know, it's probably the simplest way to say it. The more complex your systems get, the least reliable and least useful a run book, which is just so point in time done, actually becomes. Its value just diminishes. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we're saying is there's no real replacement for getting the expertise out of your head and into the other responders' heads, right? Like that's ultimately what you're trying to do with a run book, I think. Is you're like, I developed some expertise on this, and I've got about 20 minutes to do something about it, right? Run book. This happened. Try this. That worked, right? Yeah. It is a valuable exercise. And I think what we're talking about is like, how valuable is it? Because and I think this is the important thing that you're pointing out, Andrew, is you can't really know, right? Because you're talking about the future. Like you're saying, hey, future selves, like this may be relevant to you in the future, but
exactly,
we never know. It's the same. Like you'll see the code comment in the code where it's like, if this ever happens, we're screwed. Like, and you're like, this happens every day. Like, are we okay? Right? I've had that experience
Yeah.
where I'm like, hey, you wrote this comment. And they're like, oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. Like, maybe we should probably put a try catch block on that or something now. But the point being,
Yeah.
it's really, this is the whole point of building up expertise and trying to plan by any means necessary, even if it's not going to be valuable, like doing what you can. There is, I think your point, Colette, earlier, like you believed that investing in Runbooks was an important thing to do. And if you did it, like you would make a difference. I actually believe there's a percentage of truth to that in every team, and it fluctuates, and it's very hard to know. But if it's
Yep.
above
Mm.
1 or 2%, it's preparatory work. It should get us ready for the next one. As it might not, but like, what else is there? Maybe that's something we can pivot onto. Like, if you're not going to do
Mm.
Runbooks, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Well, I
Mm.
wanted. Do you want to describe a little bit of what you mean by the ops review that you were talking about for the team? Because I think that I've seen that be useful
Yeah,
as
I think it's
a.
an evolution of kind of this practice. Like, Runbooks have been all the talk for a long time, maybe 10 years. I've been hearing about Runbooks as an accepted thing, which is like this alert, this metric, these steps, try. That's been the general
Mm.
way I've seen Runbooks go. Ops review is kind of flipping that on its head, and it's saying that at some cadence as a group, you're going to look at this metric, and you're going to see if it's doing what you expect it to do still today. And the thinking is, rather than having a bunch of warning alerts that everybody ignores because you just get overwhelmed by them, you're just paying down that misunderstanding every week, month, quarter. And when it doesn't agree with what the ops review document, whatever process says, that's like an opportunity that's not an incident to resolve this thing of, we thought it worked this way, but maybe it works this way. I will say I'm pretty new to the practice. Like, I've only been doing it for a few months, but I've seen real benefits to it. And I have seen it actually lead to going and updating runbooks, where it's like, ooh, that runbook, actually mostly deleting runbooks, honestly. Like, but yeah, that the idea, it's a runbook on the other end. It's when it's normal, it looks like this, and when it's
Mhm.
not, go look here and try to understand why.
And I've also seen it where like people ask questions, right? So it's like an ops review that's set where you look through a set standard of maybe dashboards or something, but then also people ask questions of like maybe more senior people on the team, like what does this mean, or how does this look, or how do you know this, or what happens if this goes wrong or starts looking wonky? What would you do? So there's also like a chance to do a what if or a like
Mm.
kind of deep dive into a spot where you wouldn't necessarily, that's not, you're not able to play those what if games when you're in the middle of firefighting, right? So
Mm. Yeah, I always found it really useful. I mean, yeah, sometimes, I mean, when it's done well, it can happen. Hand over every shift, review all of them. Encourage everyone in the team to actually attend, even if it doesn't concern you. You may be able to offer some insights. You may be able to learn something, especially if you're new to the team. Like, the best way to learn about anything is when it doesn't do what everyone expects. So come along to that, actually understand how people solved it, ask some questions. Oh, where did you get that metric from? Oh, how did you restart that? Or wait, I just saw you use you shared a terminal session, you started using a bunch of CLI commands I haven't seen before. What are they? That can help. Like, I found especially in very large organizations, there can be people who've written great little tools, like really good ones that actually someone in a moment of frustration or enlightenment has gone, I'm just going to write this tool and it's going to make all these things much easier for everybody. And it's like, great, I didn't know about that because we didn't really promote it. But you learn those things in operational handovers. You can do that. I would recommend to any team, especially one that is highly complex systems. It's like, this is a valuable exercise. Much more better use of everyone's time than documenting what you did. But actually, even if you want to do, go through how you solved it. I got this. How did you get from here to there? Like, what were the steps you followed? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Like, actually understand the reasoning that they took when they were in the moment. I don't know, that I find that works for me so much better. It really does. And sometimes too, like in the middle of a really serious alert, like sitting there and reading a page of a run book is just stressful, right? Because your phone's ringing, people are pinging you, and it's like, no, wait, I've just got to download all this information and then go back to you. That
But
is
wait,
super
you're just
stressful.
supposed to copy and paste the commands in there and blindly enter them, Andrew. I thought you didn't know that, huh?
No,
No,
I
and I think
didn't. No.
like, but that's the thing, right? It's like and this is sort of the crux. Like I
Mm,
feel like of the cognitive systems engineering camp, right? Which is like what they're trying to do. It's like the cognitive systems engineering labs that like take fighter pilots and put them in simulation things, and then like make them run simulations and then like do all this analysis of like how they interacted. And it's like
mm,
there's so much going on in their brains that's like training plus like intuition that is obviously built on that training and that knowledge and that expertise. And it's like a run book is like, unless you're just like copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, like, which is super dangerous, right? I'm not
yeah.
endorsing that at all. Please don't come back to me when you do that and it blows up at you. But unless that's what you're doing, you're still having to read to understand
Mm,
maybe 5 or 6 times before you really get. And doing that in the middle of an incident feels like an impossibility, you know?
yeah.
Like you need that expertise downloaded to your brain already. You need to have like the matrix level, like, USB plug into your brain thing. You can't like just get it immediately.
Another like failure mode. You're talking about like you need to. I agree. Like I think if you've seen the run book before, it's a little more effective in terms of like, is this actually the thing to apply? I think in the same vein of cognitive systems, I have seen a failure mode, which is that this run book has worked 10 times and we're now on the 11th time. And I'm just going to do this run book harder. Right. And why
And
isn't
then
it
maybe
working?
break
And like
8
time
things.
is like
Yeah.
there's over
Same thing.
reliance on it
Yeah.
too. And I'm sure
Yeah.
anything can be like that. But I remember thinking that coming in as a newcomer to this org that was doing that, where there were people, on a call with an instant commander, like doing things as best as they could, like watching that just kind of put them in a helpless state. Like, oh, the run book is not working this time. Like,
Yeah. Clint and I
Mm,
were watching that incident
we
happen.
did. And
We may have done an incident analysis about it.
but I've seen it a couple of times. Like
Yeah.
that was a big one.
mm,
But like
Mhm.
it is a normal, I think, outcome to be expected. That this is like the whole like no right or wrong things, right? This is the thing that
mm.
makes things make sense at the time. Uh, there is a failure mode, which is that if you give people too clear of instructions, they won't apply their adaptive capacity in that moment. They'll
Mm.
they'll they'll start and say, "I think it's this," and at the end they'll be like, "I still think it's this."
Yeah.
And they won't know where to look or how to move around the problem so that they figure out what it really is, right? And I think that's
Mm.
scary, right? To have a bunch of run books and no other knowledge or expertise on the system, right?
Oh yeah. I think that, I mean, that applies to a lot of things, right? I mean, even in life, you can, just because through whatever experiencing one thing, it doesn't mean that when you go into a completely different environment, a completely different company, right, or whatever. I mean, it's going to work for you. It may not. You've really got to. The best thing you can rely on is that adaptive capacity. It's like, what has all that experience really taught you? It's not knowing that particular CLI command that doesn't work. I changed jobs a few months ago. Everything I learnt in my previous company or tools, command systems has no value where I currently work. But the instincts, that adaptiveness, that experience does, and that's important. Like, often even when you're hiring people, you're hiring for that. It's like, no, this is the kind of experience I need. You may not know this, but you've been through this before. You understand how to apply that knowledge, know where to look. So yeah.
Are you on call yet, Andrew?
I'm not. No, I've got to shadow one of my engineers. So I'm breaking my. I'm actually no. I feel really bad actually because normally I would do this within 3 months, but just I mean it's just a different sort of on call schedule. So it hasn't really worked out for me this time around. Not for lack of trying. It's simply just it's. I'm looking. I think end of this month is when I think the planets align for me to do it. So, but then I'll just be shadowing. So it'll just be part of the daytime on call business rotation. Hey, jumping on, pairing with people, and working out what they do. So
Because your role, you're a manager now, right? Or
that's
you're a
yeah,
manager. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, I don't. In previous companies I've worked, like even as a manager, like I'll still go on call. I mean, you're not really expected to, a lot of managers, but I always do because that's how I learn. Yeah, I often feel really bad is that when you're managing a team and if they're burnt out or if they're stressed and they've got so much unplanned work going on, it's like I don't know, it's like it triggers imposter syndrome sitting there almost like going, I hear you, it's okay, everything will get better. And it's like, but I'm not the one getting woken up at 2 a.m. in the morning, like trying to deal with this complete unknown, right, that no one's been through. And so I did find whenever I've done that, I can speak with more either authority or purpose or just knowledge. So when I'm in a manager meeting and I might be saying, no, this is a real big problem. And I can tell you why it's a big problem because I've been up since 2 a.m. dealing with it. That it gives you, I guess, a certain sense of credibility. And also, for the team itself, like I can't tell you how many times a lot of engineers say, we really appreciate the fact that you do this because you're giving us a week off where we can recharge. And so, and I don't know. I like that. I feel I'm better at my job if I can, put myself in their shoes and understand things.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
As long as you've got enough Runbooks.
Oh yeah, or a really well documented Slack archive actually helps.
Search for all the things in Slack.
Dump your brain in Slack,
such a
folks.
thing.
I am a big fan of that. Like, say it somewhere.
Yep.
So, if you are listening, we would love to hear from you. Ask us questions. Fill out our Google form at thisisfinepod.com. And we have an exciting new thing that we're going to try out for this episode, which I am super stoked about. And Andrew has very kindly agreed to participate in this lovely experiment. We are going to do a special after the episode coffee chat, which is going to be hosted by the Resilience in Software Foundation. Yay! We're going to do an interactive Zoom chat with Andrew as a guest, and we'll kick it off by talking about Runbooks, but we can also talk about other things if that's what you want to talk about. You show up, you join us, you ask the questions, and anything you'd like to cover in the resilience engineering-ish space. Members of the Resilience and Software Foundation will be able to attend this for free. If you're not a member, it's just $10 to join us for the event, or you can join and come for free. The chat will be on June 23rd at 3 p.m. Eastern, and you can find out more through a link that we're going to put in the show notes or by going to resilienceandsoftware.org. We'll post about the event there. So yeah, we're looking forward to chatting with Andrew some more live in front of the audience at the end of this month. But for now, thank you so much for joining us to talk about Runbooks, Andrew.
It was a
really
pleasure.
appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was great to have you, Andrew.
Yay.
Thank you.